behave.
So you must be a great mimic then.
Well, I used to be, and then I got into a lot of trouble. So, how are you going to make an animation film out of this? It was like tasting blood. I said, this is what I want to do, and I must do, and I have to do.
Welcome to Creative Talkative with Ketki Tewary.
Yeah, we're creative and talkative. There's no stopping this. There's no topping this. Time to explain what's in our veins, what's in our minds. Take a peek into these lives. Yeah, we're creative and talkative. There's no stopping this. There's no topping this.
Join in on an insightful conversation with the supremely talented animator, filmmaker, and illustrator Shilpa Ranade, whose films are thought-provoking, visually stunning, and reflect India's vibrant culture. Her award-winning animation film, Goopi Gawaiya Bagha Bajaiya, has been screened all over the world, winning accolades in some of the most prestigious film festivals.
I love to get into people's minds. One of my favorite things to do. And I've always thought that getting into an animator's mind would be so fantastic. Like right now, for example, you met our entire crew, you met me. So I don't know what's going on in your mind. Are you already making caricatures of us, or have you already, given us characters saying, okay, this one talks like that, this one, has this very prominent feature. So does it happen all the time?
I think it happens subconsciously with animators. They tend to be very observant,
Okay.
and it's not like they've planned to be observant, but it's a kind of a very natural thing. And I've been like that always, and observed people, absorbed the way they act and talk and behave.
So you must be a great mimic then.
Well, I used to be, and then I got into a lot of trouble.
So do you actually manage to store it away in a place where you can go back to your mental hard disk and bring it back?
I think it just happens very naturally because there's so much stuff in there that you don't know when it's going to be coming out or being used.
So Shilpa, tell me this. Right now, you have put Indian animation on the global platform. You've taken a whole lot of our traditional art and folk art and used that, brought it into the limelight. And you've done stuff which is also socially made a huge impact, right? So doing all this over the last so many years, today, how do you feel?
I just feel I'm beginning now, So I've got so much to do, and one is always sort of, hungry to sort of make more animation, make more books. I do a lot of books as well, so or do whatever projects come my way, and I try and for me, research is very important. So I like to get into things where I have to do a lot of research. So whether it's making a film or it's doing some sort of academic project or making a book, or even doing illustration. For me, that research is what keeps me going.
You were born and brought up in Dalhousie, which is the most beautiful place one can think of in that sense. So I'm presuming that you grew up on a very rich diet of visuals in that sense. So did art begin at that time because you just had such a lovely surrounding around you?
I was actually born in Pune, NDA. My dad was in the army, so that's where I was born. But yeah, early childhood was Dalhousie. Beautiful landscape, amazing people, and early childhood is something which really sticks,
Correct.
So of course, all that stayed with me. It was a huge stimulus, I'm sure, because I started drawing very early on.
Once you passed out of JJ, you were a gold medalist, and you must have had a lot of offers to begin with only.
I did start with an advertising job. I got a job at Trikaya. And of course, this was a very attractive opportunity. It was a very good agency. And
Correct.
like in a month's time, I knew this is not what I really want to do. And I joined IIT to do my master's.
Post that, then what happened? You went to London.
So 2 years I was here at IIT. And those were very amazing years also because exactly opposite of what JJ gave us. There was no skilling here, but there was a lot of content, a lot of rigor in understanding theory, application of theory. So for me, those 2 years were very, very important. And so it was a very good balance. JJ for skills and this for all the content and academic rigor. The only way to learn would be to learn on the job. So that's when I joined Ram Mohan
Okay.
and joined the studio to understand what animation really meant and what it involved. My work was always hand-drawn and driven by sort of, materiality and, paper, pencils.
Don't you think that was an advantage? Because now, students just immediately start on the digital medium, so they don't get to experience that, that skill of drawing or understanding textures in that physical form the way probably you did.
From my point of view, I think it's very important to understand the tactility of all these materials and, even the smells and the, the feel of things, getting your hands dirty. All of that is what JJ taught us, really. And again, very important for me was, what am I doing with my art? It's not just, okay, I want to make beautiful pictures, I want to make them move. I want to say something that's important, to me, and of course, of some value to whoever sees it or experiences it. So I went to TIS.
This like the turning point for you in terms of like when you say that you wanted to do work that kind of really made a social impact or use your craft for the betterment of these issues and bring them into the limelight.
Yeah, because I think I was always looking to do meaningful content, and this gave me the opportunity.
So you started the animation course at IIT in the year 2006. What was that like, setting the whole thing up?
That's really why I came here to teach. I had come to do a workshop, and then I realized, this is a great place for me to sort of set up a course, in fact, because there was nothing then. It was only NID, I think, and no other places had animation teaching. So I thought this would be fantastic. This was my alma and I wanted to come back. I joined in 2001 and it took about 4 years to actually work out what this course would be like.
Animation is a very powerful and a very unrestricted medium.
Correct.
So do you think it should be used only to entertain or also to educate?
It's an encompassing medium, anything can be animated. So whether it's entertainment, whether it's education, whether it's just any other form of communication, or it's even, interfaces, everything has an element of animation. But of course, I think even stories, they needn't always be entertaining.
Of course.
They can be serious, they can be, many-hued basically, whatever you can think of can actually be animated.
There is a very big misconception, at least in my opinion, that animation is only for kids.
Absolutely.
So what is your view on that?
I think because we've been overdosed on all the fun stuff in animation.
Correct.
I think the popular thing is that consumption has been the most, right?
Right.
And that's why people think it's only for children.
Growing up, I remember watching, Ek Chidiya, Nek Chidiya, or, the story where all the, birds kind of lift up the net, and those stories are like etched in our minds. But they were so simply illustrated, yet they were so entertaining, and at the same time, they ticked a lot of boxes. You still remember all that. Do you think there is a scope for, simple stories which are beautifully rendered or illustrated using animation, or do you think that the time of that has kind of passed?
I hope not. I think there's a place for all kinds of animation. I wish we had continued that route also, because I think we got taken by the Disney style of animation. Whereas I think this cartoon film unit used to make these films.
Yes.
And that was set up just post-independence to address a lot of social issues that the country was facing. And what better way to do it than animation, because it transcends language.
As children, I think there was a lot of wonderment and curiosity that we had. We could just sit in a park and look at the clouds all day and say, oh wow, But now, somewhere I feel that that is lost. Kids are not, they don't have that element of curiosity, or they are not, they're never wondering about things. They don't have the kind of questions because they get ready-made answers. So is that the reason why animation has also become a little more layered in that sense?
I think unfortunately our kids are being forced by the systems,
Yeah.
to kind of be stuck to their chairs and tables and
Correct.
you just look at those digital
Yes,
screens.
yes.
We need to certainly break that.
Because of their sedentary
Yeah.
lifestyle, I think that animation has become very aggressive. Yeah.
So that's the unfortunate thing because they're consuming all of these things, which are very, in fact, sometimes very violent,
Yes.
sometimes very over the top, extreme,
Yeah.
and they live these experiences via those digital screens.
So your take on the new age video games, which are extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
So as an animator and as a parent, what do you feel?
As an animator, I think it's criminal. I wouldn't do it. As a parent, I haven't actually ever put restrictions on the children. They've played their video games, but in moderation.
We have a culture which is so rich, so saturated, our folk art, our traditional art, right? Then why is it that this, when it comes to animation, the foreign sensibilities have taken over? I have nothing against Pixar or Disney. I love them. They are some of my favorites. But I would love to see homegrown content much more. So why does that happen?
One problem is that animation has never been funded. So obviously, again, animation that you could make only for children, or animation that you could make if you worked at the film unit. So that culture of making animation wasn't nurtured. So I think that's a huge problem unless you're given a lot of support. That's the only time you can actually explore the medium, do something that's meaningful, doesn't have to be commercial always. Then you can make animation which cuts across just entertainment or just for children.
Interestingly, in the recent times, whether it is Karadi Tales or whether it is Scholastic or whether it is Pratham, they've coming up with these really interesting books. It has a traditional look and feel, but it doesn't look like something a kid would not pick up. And you are responsible because you've done a lot of illustrations for them. So, was it tough in that sense?
I love doing illustration.
Yeah.
So, and of course, because animation is so long drawn and it is so labor intensive and the turnaround time is very, very long. So, I like to do books in between because I want to keep drawing. For me, that's really important.
So the process, say, of a book, when you're, given that as an assignment, that you have to illustrate this. So are you given the complete story or do you work alongside the writer?
That's one thing that happens in the publishing industry, that it's always written and given to you, most times. You do have an author's place in a book as an illustrator.
Right. So if I were to ask you to choose, I know I'm putting you in a fix, but do you like to do like illustrations or would you rather make a film?
I love both because doing illustration is done even for animation. So for me, drawing is what it drives me basically. So whether it's for a book or for a film, I'm happy to just draw basically.
The movie for which you've won so many international awards, it's been showcased all over the world. So Goopi Gawaiya Bagha Bajaiya, correct? It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Absolutely, which is why we also called it GGBB.
Okay, so GGBB is what we go with. It is a classic directed by Satyajit Ray in the 1960s. What made you pick the story, and then how did you come up with the look and feel the way you did? And it was also showcased at Toronto, New York, at Dubai, and then of course Mami Film Festival here, and a lot many more places, right?
Busan and Australia and Trinidad and it's been all over actually. Indonesia.
Wow,
and lots of amazing places actually. And I got to travel with the film, which was great. And it was such an experience taking a piece of Indian work and showcasing it to the world. For me was a very, very important part of what I did. Scholastic gave me a book to illustrate, which was Goopi Gawaiya Bagha Bajaiya.
Okay.
And it was written by Gulzar, which
Okay.
was an interpretation. It's a wonderful story from the 1915, very, very old piece of work written by Satyajit Ray's grandfather. And I got that to illustrate. And for me, I said, my God, this is such an opportunity. The legacy of this story. I'd looked at all the woodcuts and print made illustrations that were done. It's got to be a tribute to all of this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to let this story down. I don't want to let the imagination around this story down. So that with that responsibility, I approached it. And I was told to do some, I think some 10 or 15 illustrations. And then I was having so much fun. I made a whole lot of illustrations for the book, you know. And they were very happy when they got everything that I did. It was a black and white book written in Hindi. They said, let's do an English version of this, a shorter version with illustrations in color. So then I took the same illustrations and, in the early days, you used to have photographs which were black and white, and one would just use photo color
yeah,
and very artificial looking
Yeah,
color,
yeah.
but it was color
Right.
pictures because it was before color photography. So I used the same approach to do that for the illustrations. I said, this is fabulous material for animation because it's got everything that an animation film for a child should have. It has beautiful content, it's got a lot of value in terms of what it's saying. It's also got a lot of fun. It's also
Right.
got a lot of amazing characters. It's also a musical. It's got songs in it. So
Right.
I said, this is great material for a feature-length film.
When you're layering a character, do you think about the physical attributes of the character first, or do you think about the nature?
I think it's sort of connected. Your physicality and the way it's not just the physical aspect. So I think it's so much together. Both these things are very, very connected.
Do you visualize their voice and their manner of speaking and the sound when you are designing?
One has a sense of how they'll act and behave, and how they'll sound. You do have it in your head,
Right.
and then to externalize that,
Yeah.
I had an amazing team to work with. So, and the people who did the voices were all theater people.
Another very interesting project of yours is plant life and child farmers, which again are two really beautiful concepts. So let's hear about that.
Very, very important because I had been reading in the papers for many, many years actually, that there farmer suicides are rampant in Maharashtra, yeah. And Vidarbha is where most of it happens. And in that process, I saw that, the people who are most affected are the kids in the family.
Right.
Of course, the mothers and the extended family, everybody is of course very badly affected, but the kids, because they at very early ages, like even 8 and very, very young, they have to then become farmers on their own land. But of course it had to be facilitated via a teacher. The book is quite dark in that sense,
Yeah.
because we're talking about an issue that's not easy to sort of
Right,
just digest like that.
When can we expect like a complete utilization of this form of art, which is animation? Because abroad, animation has really seeped into their life, into so many aspects of their life, or in so many ways. So when can we expect that? Since you are the flag bearer,
We need a lot more flag bearers, and that's the issue. We need flag bearers, we need people to support, we need the money for it, we need the platforms for it, we need an educated audience. So more viewing, more sort of dissemination, more awareness, all of that is needed.
where do you look for inspiration?
I think inspiration is everywhere. It's just for you to see it.
I know you keep very busy, but why is it that we haven't seen another film from you since 2013?
Yeah. Well, I'm working on films.
Okay.
In fact, I'm working on a short film right now. It's on the birth of Buddha, and it's based on the Ajanta murals. So it's a takeoff on that. So, which is why I then keep doing my books. I keep doing other, projects.
Correct.
research, teaching, of course, is huge. So I take I mean, I find that very interesting also. So it's not just films that I'm making constantly. So many other things. Of course, drawing and painting, I just keep doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where it all started.
it all started.
And that's where it all has come to,
Yes.
and that's how it's going to go.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Can't do it. It's like, breathing oxygen. It's like that. Yeah.
Right.
Let us tell you what we wanna say. Not about just getting paid or achieving fame. It's about the everyday blood, sweat, and tears, dreams and fears. Everything you gotta hear. Listen, from the first steps to the final leap, making headlines in history. How they did it, it's no mystery. Take a seat, honestly. Yeah, we're creative and talkative. There's no stopping this, there's no topping this. Time for honesty with some novelty. Sit down with KT, you just hit the lottery.
Hope you had as much fun listening as we did talking. Do subscribe for updates on our upcoming episode out every Friday. Like, share, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as creativetalkative.com. That's creative with a K.